Supervisor Dixon,
Present.
Councilman Bauer,
Here.
Councilman Contafio,
Here.
Councilman Hanley,
Present.
Councilman Picarek.
Present.
Thank you to everyone for coming to the first meeting of this new town board, the organizational meeting. I'd just like to say that you know, we're all new at this, or most of us. So you know, nothing goes smoothly as we would like. So if there's any hiccups, please give us a break. If there is a fire, then we have exits on over there and in the back. So I think if you've been to other organizational meetings, you know this is mostly just a very long list of resolutions that are done at the beginning of every year, and we'll start off with the first one.
We have a motion on the floor to appoint Tina Hawthorne as town attorney for a 2-year term, set pursuant to Town Law 24 at an annual salary of $71,750, effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Need a motion to accept? Second.
Second.
Second. On the question?
Yes. So I am positive that Ms. Hawthorne is a very capable family law attorney. I was hoping that we could find somebody with more experience in municipal law, and I did find 1 or 2 candidates. It's not easy to find someone so qualified who lives in West Seneca, so the candidates I found did not live in West Seneca, but were had years of municipal experience. But in the course of discussions, it was clear that the majority of the board did not agree with me. Ms. Hawthorne and I have had discussions about my feelings about the impartiality of the town attorney, and how I would hope that the town attorney is not a participant in partisan campaigns, and would represent the entire board, you know, faithfully, and I'm sure that she would.
On the question, I share many of Gary's concerns, not all of them identically. One point I just wanted to add, the voters voted for change, and to keep the same town attorney as the past board seems like a mistake to me. I will be voting against the appointment.
Can't hear you. Can't hear
Is
it.
it working? Is it working?
One second.
You gotta hold the button now. That's my fault. Want me to repeat that then?
Yeah.
All right.
Here, yeah. It's just not working.
All right. You hear me now?
No, press the button down.
Am I doing it or not? Now you can see our new guy's stuff. All right, basic gist is I shared a lot of Gary's concerns, not all of them identically, but the voters to me voted for change. I felt like changing out the town attorney from the old board made sense to do so as well. For that reason, I am voting against the appointment. Having said that, it does appear I'm going to lose the vote. I do want to try and work with Tina as much as possible in the next couple of years. Thank you.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor to appoint Tina Hawthorne as town attorney. I need, can I get the A's, the yeses? All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Nay.
No.
Aye. Motion passed. Tina Hawthorne at this time. I think we're having trouble with the mics, but Tina Hawthorne, at this time, you've been appointed to town attorney for a term of 2 years. Can you please join us at the head table?
Okay, moving right along. Move that the elected town officials are salaried as follows: Supervisor Gary Dixon, $65,000. Council members William Hanley, Bill Bauer, Jeffrey Picarek, and Joseph Contafio, $21,000. Town clerk Amy Kohler, $58,000. Town highway superintendent Brian Adams, $80,000. And the 2 town justices, Shannon Filbert, $44,040, as well as Jeffrey Harrington, same amount. Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving along, move that Kimberly Kennedy and John Manier be appointed as town prosecutors with an annual salary of $8,500, each effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, and aye, by the way, too. So congratulations to Ms. Kennedy and to John Manier. Thank you. Next, move that John Manier be appointed deputy town attorney with an annual salary of $4,000. Oops, I skipped one, excuse me. Move that Kimberly Kennedy be appointed deputy town attorney at an annual salary of $4,000 effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel, noting that the deputy town attorney services shall be limited to providing counsel to the zoning board of appeals. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Cantafio seconded, and on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, move that John Manier be appointed deputy town attorney with an annual salary of $4,000 effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel, noting that the deputy town attorney services shall be limited to providing counsel to the Board of Ethics. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Move that Clark Patterson Lee be hired as provider of engineering services to the town at a cost not to exceed $125,000 a year. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yes, I have a question about that. I'm opposed to the format of the payment, as being a lump sum annual payment being paid in quarterly payments. I'd like to have the format of the payment to be in a purchase order form with an allowance of up to $75,000 in payments to be made during 2020. Purchase order should be written on an hourly unit price basis for each service provided and approved by the town. It should be invoiced monthly. Written quotation should be requested for the hourly services by the pay scale from CPL and incorporated into the purchase order.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to appoint Clark Patterson.
Wait. Did you have anything to comment on the question?
Nothing on the question.
Actually, on the question, if I can as well, I have some issues with this as well. My biggest one is that we're basing it with the same firm for the 6th straight year. I am voting for it, even though I have those reservations, because there isn't really a practical way for us to bid this right now, being so new. But I will tell the board the next year, if we do this again for a 7th year, I am voting against it.
And I agree. I think all the contracts that we have should be examined and, if necessary, rebid. I think basically we're continuing like this because we didn't have time to do a formal RFP, a request for a proposal. So they will continue for the next year, and then hopefully we'll have either confirmed that we're getting the best possible price from them, or we will have a different company that provides engineering services that will give us the best price. Ms. Hawthorne, should we just vote on this, or should we table it till perhaps Monday and to change it in more accordance with Mr. Bauer's suggestion?
You could, looks like I'm not working either. You could amend the motion to be in accordance with Mr. Bauer's wishes.
Mr. Hanley, how is it handled right now?
For Clark Patterson Lee, we have a professional services agreement with Clark Patterson Lee. They're guaranteed $75,000. The most we could give them is $125,000. Anything beyond $125,000, there would have to be an agreement, there would be a motion on the table to exceed that dollar limit. So right now, they get $75,000 to provide engineering services. Anything outside of the normal engineering services, like when the pipe broke apart in Kaz and Overy Creek and we had to rebuild that was an extra. That's not part of their everyday engineering services. That would come out of the $50,000 contingency budget. So the most Clark Patterson could be paid this year is $125,000 unless we came up with another motion to give them more money going forward for next year.
Is this something, Is this something that, we can do, without negotiating with them again? Would this put us in a chance where we wouldn't be able to continue to do it?
Well, the motion on the floor is to hire them at not to exceed $125,000. We have a amended motion on the floor to ask them for, not for pricing, because they're going to be, it appears they'll be hired tonight, but we can amend the motion to ask them for better explanation of their charges going forward.
Correct.
All right, I'll second the motion if you need a second.
Do you wanna, go ahead, now you wanna read the amended motion? Can our Director of Finance, Megan Winnick, would like to say something at this point, and I'll allow that.
The invoices that they do submit are broken down on an hourly basis, what that they work on.
Yeah, but they have a guaranteed payment of $75,000 regardless of how much work they put in or how many hours they put in.
Right, but their invoices are just broken down hourly, what they've worked on.
So they have on file, we have a record of how much for a senior engineer, how much for a junior engineer.
It is by what engineer works on it.
Thank you, Megan.
So, should we amend it just to reflect what, this is for Ms. Hawthorne, to reflect, what Mr. Bauer wants?
Yes,
Right, okay.
and that you make the motion with the amendment and then ask for a second. And if you have it, it passes.
All right, so then the motion was amended to, payment for Clark, Patterson, Lee, with an allowance for up to $75,000 in payments to be made during 2020, with a purchase order written on an hourly unit price basis for each service provided, approved by the town, and should be invoiced monthly. Written quotation should be requested for hourly services by pay scale from CPL and incorporated into the purchase order, and the cost of the town in 2020 will not to exceed $125,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Motion that Harris Beach, PLLC be retained as bond counsel to the town of West Seneca for all financing matters. Service will be performed at the fees and charges as described in the Harris Beach Bond Council Engagement Agreement dated January 1, 2020, and the supervisor is hereby authorized to complete and execute a retainer agreement with said firm for all financing matters for the town of West Seneca. Do I have a second?
Second.
So on the question, the conditions are identical to the conditions that were done last year. Harris Beach advises us on our issuance of bonds, which I am learning is extremely complicated and needs to be done accurately. So their charges have not changed from last year. But again, we will be looking at possibly rebidding this to make sure that we're getting the best value for our money. Does anyone else?
No, that would be correct, Supervisor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Motion to authorize the supervisor to sign a grant consulting agreement with Connie Minor in the amount of $30,000 a year in equal monthly installments effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, this is, she has been our grant writer for a number of years and has brought in a lot of money for the town in grants. Mr. Hanley can probably have more detail if you'd like, but this is the same price as last year.
That's correct, Supervisor. I did not bring the sheet with me for how much grant money she has brought to the town, but it would exceed the millions of dollars. So, Connie Minor does a fantastic job for the residents of West Seneca. She finds money when we need it.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Motion that Amy Kobler be appointed Registrar of Vital Statistics with an annual salary of $4,062 effective January 1st, 2020. All fees collected go to the town general fund and authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County. Have a second?
Second.
And on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, it's unanimous. And motion passed. Motion on the recommendation of the town clerk that Molly Martin be appointed Deputy Registrar of Vital Statistics at an annual salary of $1,661, effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that on the recommendation of the town justices that Maureen Brownsey be appointed liaison to the courts effective January 1st, 2020 with an annual stipend of $1,500. A second?
Second.
On the question? I have talked with Ms. Brownsey, and this is, it's almost the equivalent of being a senior clerk. She's has a lot of extra responsibilities in that office, and I think the stipend is, it gets us a lot of value for our money. On the question, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Move that Dennis Asinski and Stephen DeSalvo be appointed to the Board of Plumbing Examiners effective January 1st, 2020 with an annual stipend of $500 each. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Move that Ed Simoncelli and Dennis Kremlis be appointed to the Board of Electrical Examiners effective January 1st, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. I should mention that I've talked to all these people and they're all, willing to continue, and I think they give a pretty good value to the town. Moving along, move that the following be appointed to the Environmental Commission for 2-year terms effective January 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2021. Evelyn Hicks, Cammie Gerald, Carl Spencer, and Tracy Skalski. Do I have a second? On the question? This was, all of these appointments to these boards we requested applicants to send us their resumes. All of these particular 4 are all being reappointed, and we believe they're doing a good job. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Cynthia Johnson be appointed to the Library Board effective January 1st, 2020 for a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This is a reappointment for Ms. Johnson. Move that the annual salaries of the Zoning Board of Appeals and Planning Board be set at $5,946 for the chairman of each board and $4,032 each for the other members of each board effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel, noting that the members of each board shall be paid 1/12 of the annual salary with absences paid at the discretion of the chairman. However, 3 missed meetings could be reason for removal from the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move to accept the resignation of Brendan Najam from the Planning Board effective January 1st, 2020 upon appointment to the position of Chief of Staff. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question, I'd like to thank Brendan for his years of service. It was, I believe I was the first one to ask him to sit on the planning board. I think he worked hard for it, so I'd like to thank him for his years of service on the planning board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So the next 3 motions will all be, again, this is for the planning board, and we got probably about a dozen people applied, all very, very good candidates, and we believe that these 3 are excellent. So move that James Frick be appointed to the planning board effective January 1st, 2020 for a 7-year term ending December 31st, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question, I'd like to thank Don Mendola for his many years, I think Don is here somewhere, for his many, many years of service to the town of West Seneca. I appreciate everything that you've done for us and for the planning board, and wish you well in your future, okay, Don?
Also, Jim Frick's in the audience tonight. Jim, you wanna stand up and? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
I would also like to thank Don for his years of service to West Seneca. We really do appreciate it.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Move that Eric Saylor be appointed to the planning board effective January 1st, 2020, to finish a term ending December 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Like Mr. Frick, Mr. Saylor is a civil engineer. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Move that Raymond Malawajic be appointed to the planning board effective January 1st, 2020, to finish a term ending December 31st, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. Move that Amy Kobler be appointed secretary to the planning board at an annual salary of $4,300 effective January 21st, 2020, and authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Amy Kohler be appointed secretary to the zoning board of appeals with a annual salary of $4,300 effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second? On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Amelia Greenan be appointed secretary to the ethics board effective January 1st, 2020, at an hourly rate of $18. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Anthony Alessi, Michael Shee, and Mark Kwiatkowski of West Seneca be appointed civil officers of the town of West Seneca effective January 1st, 2020, for the purpose of service of process without remuneration from the town. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Tom Bilski be appointed to the Board of Assessment Review for a 5-year term effective January 1st, 2020, for a term expiring December 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that members of the Board of Assessment Review be subject to the call of the assessor at an annual stipend of $500 each, and that the chairman of the Board of Assessment Review at an annual stipend of $750, effective January 1st, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the following officials and employees not represented by the collective bargaining agreement recognized by the town of West Seneca are hereby appointed to the following positions with salaries effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Megan Winnick, $73,544. Megan is the finance director. Police Chief Daniel Dents, $157,747. Michael Beringer, Deputy or Assistant to Chief of Police, $100,039,583. Dina Wixelman, Secretary to the Highway Superintendent, $52,101. Supervisor's Confidential Secretary, who is Brendan Najum, as we will soon find out, $45,441. Katie Almeida, a clerk to town justice, $52,101, and Teresa Stacy, also clerk to town justice, $43,274. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Any opposed? Motion carried. Move that Brian Move that Brian Adams be appointed as dog control officer at an annual stipend of $7,000 effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize supervisor to sign the necessary forms for Erie County. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, the highway superintendent has expressed a willingness not to take the stipend. Rather than having to just refuse it, I make a motion that we amend the motion down to $1 only for the animal control officer.
It is absolutely true that the highway superintendent has requested that that he not receive the stipend. However, it's my personal opinion that this promise was taken during the campaign, which he continues to adhere to. However, as we learned later in the campaign, his salary was cut by over $10,000. And I personally think that the highway superintendent should make more than the straight salary of $80,000. With the dog control, that makes it $87,000. That's so. My recommendation is that we keep it, although I will recognize that he has asked not to receive it.
So we have a motion on the floor to appoint Brian Adams as dog control officer at a stipend of $7,000. We have an amended motion to reduce that to $1, and we have a comment after to leave it at $7,000. I think we should vote on the $7,000 stipend first, and then we can vote on the $1 amended motion after.
So Ms. Hawthorne, do you think we should vote first on the amendment, and then that would determine what the final motion is?
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Oh, good point. Did we get a second on Jeff's amended motion to reduce it to $1?
We did not.
So then the motion remains for the $7,000 stipend. Jeff, did you have any other comments?
I've said my piece.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So that was Mr. Bauer, Mr. Dixon, and Mr. Cantafio for, and, no, Mr. Hanley, Mr. Dixon, and Mr. Cantafio for, and Mr. Bauer and Mr. Pekarik against. And we will certainly revisit this issue next year. Move that Thomas Murtha be appointed as a one-year term as bingo inspector for the town of West Seneca at an annual salary of $1,200 with said terms commencing January 1st, 2020 and expiring December 31st, 2020. And authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Move that John Manier be appointed American with Disabilities Officer and Harassment Compliance Officer for the town of West Seneca with an annual stipend of $1,000. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
On the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Eric Conley be appointed Emergency Manager at an annual salary of $25 an hour per incident effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize the supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Peter Spilsbury and Daniel McCartan be appointed Deputy Emergency Managers at an annual salary of $20 an hour per incident effective January 1st, 2020, and authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. A second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the town funds be deposited in the West Seneca offices of the following banks effective January 1st, 2020. M&T Trust Company for the operating trust and agency, payroll, workers' compensation, P&A, general investment and reserve accounts, Evans National Bank for the operating account, JP Morgan Chase for operating and capital, and Key Bank for workers' compensation. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? We will be revisiting the banks in the coming year to make sure we're getting the best price possible. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the town board hereby authorize the funds of the construction and improvement account to be maintained by a consolidated bank account, but that the town continues to maintain a separate improvement account at all times as recommended by the state auditors. Have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the town board approve the blanket purchase orders for utilities for the 2020 fiscal year. Telephone, $178,353 for Verizon Wireless, Verizon Fios, Spectrum, and Level 3. Electricity, $343,016 for NYSEG, Direct Energy, and National Grid. For gas, $160,784 to National Fuel Resources, and water, $44,819 for Erie County Water Authority. Do I have a second?
Second.
Megan, would you like to comment where these numbers come from?
Sure, these numbers come from the 2020 adopted budget, so this is just saying that if any of our expenditures in these areas go over that budget, it would have to be approved by the town board first.
So this is more of it's a ceiling, establishes a ceiling, but it doesn't say this is, we'll see how the bills are when they come in.
Right. They're all still reviewed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So on this next one, on the recommendation of the town attorney, it's been altered slightly, so, but it'll be accurate when it's in the minutes. Move that the town board of the town of West Seneca pursuant to section 25 of the town law and section 11-2 of public officers law hereby approves the execution of a public employee's blanket bond covering all officers, including supervisor, town board, including councilman, town clerk, superintendent of highways, and collector and receiver of taxes, director of finance, and 2 town justices for the town of $100,000 per occurrence. And be it further resolved that the undertaking shall be effective within 30 days from January 1st, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
On the question, just a clarification, you said the including council part, is that already written into it, or we just say it was reading it?
It's here under town board.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the motion includes those words for the councilman, right? So what the motion is what we're voting on,
I
so.
didn't see it in writing, so.
No, it's the old, this is the version, what's in your, agenda is the version that the town board has been voting on for years. Our current town, attorney says needed to be altered, so
Okay,
that's
I just
what
wanted to clarify it was in there though. Okay.
yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the West Seneca be designated as the official newspaper and that the Buffalo News and West Seneca Sun be used at the discretion of the board. A second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the following titles of town department heads, elected and appointed officials, certain other full-time employees not covered by contract provisions between the town and the blue collar or white collar CSEA or white collar PBA be granted extended benefits including Blue Shield or equivalent plan costs, as well as other health and welfare funds related to benefits in accordance with the CSEA white collar contract or equivalent, with the exception of the chief of police and assistant chief of police who are granted benefits pursuant to the contract with the West Seneca PBA. These include the following: supervisor, town clerk, highway superintendent, 2 town justices, town attorney, secretary to supervisor, 2 clerks to town justices, secretary to the highway superintendent, director of finance, chief of police, and assistant chief of police. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question, I have one. I see we added the word supervisor to the person that will be receiving the health care benefits. We haven't had the word supervisor in this motion for the last 6 years that I've been on the board, at least 2 years prior to that. I believe the last supervisor to receive these benefits under this resolution was during the Paul Clark era. We didn't budget for supervisor benefits with this year's budget. I'm in agreement with the motion, but I'm not in agreement with the word supervisor.
The question also, the supervisor's position did not have healthcare benefits for the past 8 years. The approved budget for 2020 does not have financial allocated for this additional healthcare inclusion. The cost of the additional healthcare benefit to the town of West Seneca would be over $25,000 a year, or a wage compensation increase to the supervisor of over 38%, 2 days into your term of office. I'm opposed to this.
While I respect the concerns and understand Councilman Bauer and Councilman Hanley's concerns, I feel that it's important that all of our full-time employees have quality health care. So adding a supervisor as a full-time position, I support.
Position is full-time, while I do not like adding it. Ultimately, if we're gonna attract people to the office, I believe we do have to pay the benefits if they need them.
It's certainly true that every supervisor, and actually Supervisor Megan was given the opportunity to receive the benefits. They were only, the word was taken out 1 or 2 years into her term, so she was receiving actually in lieu of, which is an option under the CSEA white collar contract. So she was receiving it. The main reason, and certainly Supervisor Piotrowski received it, Supervisor Paul Clark received it, and I would imagine every supervisor before them has received it. In addition, all the supervisors in towns around us receive it. Every single full-time employee in West Seneca receives it. A couple of part-time employees receive it. So I agree that if we are going to attract people, we should treat everybody who's working full-time the same and not discriminate. And you know, as you well know, the main reason that Mrs. Megan was covered, despite her, but despite the removal of it, was still covered by her husband, who was employee of the town. So she did have the insurance. It was just it was through her husband, not herself. And per the contract, two people cannot both receive the insurance. If one of them is an employee, then they only get it one time. They don't get it, double insurance, which really doesn't even make sense. I mean, is normal.
All right, well, let me clarify a few things. We're not here to debate Mrs. Megan, she's gone. Second, she did not receive the benefit, she did not take the stipend. That was taken away when John Brzezinski was on the town board. So she received the benefit the same as if she would have been a stay-at-home mom. She received the benefit through her husband. She never took the stipend. I believe Wally Piotrowski did not take the health insurance. He may have taken a stipend because he had health insurance elsewhere. My point is, we didn't budget $28,000 for supervisor benefits this year.
Well, if you look at the minutes to town board meetings in 2013, you'll see that no, she did receive the benefits. And you're right. We only bring it up to say that to not give the benefits to a full-time employee who does not have a spouse working for the town would be the first time in maybe ever that happened.
Okay, let's take a vote.
On the question, all in favor? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So that's Mr. Pekarik, Mr. Dixon, and Mr. Cantafio for, and Mr. Bauer and Mr. Hanley against. Moving right along, move that pursuant to section 119-1 of the town law, the town clerk be authorized to draw warrants to pay any claims for fixed salaries for principal and interest on bonded or refunded debt or other loans on the legal or stated compensation of officers and employees of the town or accounts becoming due upon lawful contracts for periods not to exceed 1 year. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? Motion carried. Move that the town continue its procurement policy in the manner set forth in the procurement and purchasing policy adopted by the town on January 27th, 2015. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On this question, we will be looking at the procurement policy that, sometime this year to make sure that it's as efficient as possible, with an eye of possibly centralizing purchasing, if that's appropriate.
That's appropriate. Supervisor, that is one that, I carry this with me all the time, so I can share this, or Megan, when I can share it with you. It gives you the dollar limits that each department head can spend without going to town board for approval, but we can revisit this and see if we want to change it, sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that all vouchers for claims upon town shall be accepted for audit in the manner set forth in the procurement policy and purchasing policy adopted by the town on July 27th, 2015. All in favor, or, excuse me, do I have a second? On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the mileage rate allotted to public officials and town employees be tied to the internal revenue regulations and in the manner set forth in the policy adopted by the resolution of the town board. There's a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the petty cash funds, charge funds be created as follows. Accounting and financial consulting services, $250. Town clerk, $350. Receiver of taxes, $500. Highway superintendent, $250. Police confidential investigation, $2,500. Police department, $500. Recreation, $250. Justice court, $250. Senior citizens, $200. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move that town hall offices be open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the West Seneca Senior Center be open for the public from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that R.A. Mercer be employed to prepare an annual audit, and also any other services that may be called for by order of the town board at a fee not to exceed $40,000. And additional service involving accounting standards and consultation shall not exceed $15,000 and shall receive prior approval of the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, Ms. Link, would you like to address the employment of the external auditor?
The external auditor, they come in once a year. We're required to have an external audit based on our bonded debt that's been issued. They must issue their financial statements no later than June 30th of that year.
And we will be doing an RFP for a new auditor this year, correct?
Yes.
Megan, those rates are all on file too for a auditor, a junior auditor, a staff member, all those numbers are on file, correct?
Those are all set forth in the engagement letter, which we should receive in the next month. That would be
Thank
signed.
you. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the town supervisor be authorized to sign checks for West Seneca Library pursuant to section 259 of the education law. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that the supervisor and/or director of finance to the town be authorized to temporarily invest town monies not needed for immediate expenditure. And further, the town board adopts and authorizes the supervisor and/or the director of finance to the town to comply with the investment policy and guidelines as originally adopted by the town board on December 18th, 1989, and amended on December 17th, 2012. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Move that the following banks be added to the town investment policy for use at the discretion of the supervisor and/or director of finance: Key Bank of Western New York, N.A., Bank of America, Citizens Bank, M&T Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Evans National Bank. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that to the extent possible, regular meetings of the town board, where not otherwise specified, be held in the community room located in the West Seneca Community Center as follows. And then it lists, I don't have to read all these. Ms. Attorney, do I have to read all these?
No.
On the question?
Second.
Second, thank you. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Yeah. Special meetings shall be held at the call of the supervisor or town clerk of the town of West Seneca upon written request of at least 2 members of the town board. Notice in writing stating the time and place and purpose of the special meeting should be served personally on each member of the board at least 48 hours before the date fixed for holding this meeting, the meeting. The only business specified in the notice thereof may be transacted in a special meeting. In accordance with open meetings law, the public and news media shall be given reasonable notice of any special meeting, and all further executive sessions shall be public except for specified purposes allowed under the law. Excuse me. Motion that the town board subject to the provisions of section 284 of highway law, enter into an agreement with the superintendent of highways that monies levied and collected in the town for the repair and improvement of highways and received from the state for state aid for the repair of improvement of highways shall be expended pursuant to the terms set forth therein. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? So this 284 agreement is basically between the highway superintendent and the town board and sets out what highway repairs that he'll be doing, the amount available for highway repairs in the coming year. There's a separate highway law in New York State in which he has pretty much complete autonomy over how he operates the highways. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that no town vehicles be approved for personal use, and all town vehicles, including the equipment in the highway department, be identified by decals with the exception of the police department vehicles used for detective work and the police chief's car, and direct the supervisor to ensure that decals are placed on all cars except those mentioned. Town vehicles for take-home use shall be provided to the chief of police, highway superintendent, and supervisor. Town vehicles shall not leave the town limits except for use on official town business. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? So I actually do not take the supervisor's vehicle home. I take my own car home, and when it's nice, I'll walk. So my car will stay in the lot provided for it. Anybody else? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move that no town equipment be used for personal use. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Motion that in the interest of energy conservation, that the operation of a log can be continued for each town-owned truck and vehicle as related to the mileage, destination, and task accomplished. Said log to be reviewed by the department head and forwarded monthly to the committee chairman responsible for that office. Further, no town-owned vehicle, except police department vehicles, be left running at any location for any reason. And further, the town vehicles of various department heads, except police and highway, be left at the town hall for general use while individuals are on vacation or any extended time off. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, I have a question for our highway superintendent. Do these logs exist, and are they actually filled out the way that there's described in this motion?
We don't have set paper logs. Everything is tracked through computers and our gas pumps. So an employee would enter their employee ID number and the mileage and their vehicle number. So everything is set on a day-to-day basis every time they get fuel.
I note that from my conversation with other employees in the town hall, that these logs also do not exist. This motion was copied from the last year's reorganization meeting, and they appear to have been repeated for a number of years. But, I mean, perhaps Mr. Hanley, did you receive these reports, monthly reports from the departments that report to you?
I never received them, but I used to go to the town hall and I would sit with Matt English. Matt English would have a set of books that were on the desk behind him that kept record. I would ask him, where's truck 34? He would look in the book and tell me it was over in whatever neighborhood. So there was a set of books. Did I receive them monthly? No, but he did carry a set of books that were on the desk directly behind him that identified where each truck was and a purpose of that truck. Maybe not as detailed as this agenda item says, but he was able to tell me every day wherever a truck was and what the purpose of that truck was doing in that neighborhood.
May I comment on that? So we do have set daily work orders. We know exactly what truck number is per job site. In order for it to track an exact mileage of stop to stop, I think that's a little ludicrous, but we know for the most part where every truck is within town limits on that day, and then we also track it by the computer mileage and the gas pumps.
So I'll concede that the mileages logged with the fuel pumps, they use their card to sign on to get their fuel. But as far as keeping a log of where the trucks were, there was a logbook kept on site, but you're correct.
So actually, I would propose that since this motion does not appear to have been followed to the detail that the motion requires, for understandable reasons, I think I move that we table this and address this issue later and come up with perhaps a more realistic policy.
Second.
All in favor of tabling the motions, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is tabled. Move that the town board sets the following rules related to the use of highway personnel and equipment for emergencies. A, West Seneca Highway Department is authorized to provide for emergency assistance to local school systems, fire districts, and other municipalities if personnel or equipment are requested. B, an emergency must exist and have been declared in Erie County municipality requesting assistance. C, highway superintendent will promptly notify the supervisor of such action. A written summary will be immediately given to the town clerk and town attorney outlining the details of the emergency service, including the Emergency Operations Center. D, town equipment will be operated by West Seneca employees in the employment of work situations. However, slow-moving vehicles such as rollers, stationary equipment such as air compressors or pumps, and light tools may be loaned to another highway department to be used and operated by their employees, and fees may be assigned to the municipality that receives long-term aid. And E, the West Seneca Highway Superintendent is authorized to request aid from other towns in Erie County. Non-West Seneca personnel and equipment will work under the supervision of the West Seneca Highway Superintendent. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? I personally, I think this is a great example of, the towns in the area pulling together and helping each other out when necessary. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move that Mark Kohler be appointed as the town's fair housing and officer and affirmative action officer effective January 1st, 2020 at an annual stipend of $1,200, and further direct Mr. Kohler to submit a yearly report documenting matters handled. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This following few announcements do not require a vote of the town board. Under the various laws, the elected officers can directly appoint their certain people, including their deputies. The town clerk announces that Molly Martin is appointed deputy clerk effective January 1st, 2020 at an annual stipend of $2,500. About your deputy, Mr. Highway Superintendent?
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to keep Kevin Smith on as deputy highway superintendent for the time being during the transition period. I'm gonna continue to evaluate the position, for my initial transition and possibly make changes if need be down the road.
So this is Mr. Kevin Smith is appointed Deputy Highway Superintendent effective January 1st, 2020. An annual salary of $6,000 is set in the 2020 budget. And then he act in the capacity of Highway Superintendent in the event of his absence for any reason, such as vacation, illness, etc. So, Mr. Adams, I would hope then that in your absence, he would come to the town board meetings?
That is clear.
The supervisor announces the following liaison and committee appointments for the year 2020, noting that he is also a member of each committee. Confidential Secretary, Brendan Najum. Deputy Supervisor, Brendan Najum. Town Historian, James Pace. Engineering and Special Districts, Gary Dixon. Police and Public Safety, Gary Dixon. Senior Citizens, Jeffrey Pekarik. Recreation, William Hanley. Library Advisory, Jeff Pekarik. Highway, William Bauer. Insurance, Gary Dixon. Town Attorney, Gary Dixon. Justice Courts, William Hanley. Town Clerk's Office, Joseph Cantafio. Assessor's Office, William Hanley. Code Enforcement, William Bauer. Environmental Commission, William Hanley. Band Shell, Joseph Cantafio. Solid Waste, William Hanley. Employee Assistance Program, William Hanley. Kelly Keene, Brendan Najum, Megan Winnick. Human Resources, Gary Dixon. Health and Safety, Joseph Cantafio. Buildings and Grounds, William Hanley. Safety and Accident Review Committee, Joseph Cantafio. Utility Advisory, Steve Aboya and William Hanley. In addition, there's two more that aren't on the agenda. The liaison to the Planning Board, William Bauer. And the newly created Labor Management and Healthcare Policy Review Committee, which was announced in the extension to the White Collar CBA, Collective Bargaining Agreement, is Mr. Joseph Cantafio. Motion to adopt the attached rules of order for meetings of the Town Board of the Town of West Seneca pursuant to Town Law 63. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question,
Go ahead. You want to go first? I have a few on the question. Sure. First, I fully support the supervisor establishing a decorum set of rules. I really do. This is a nice plan put together here. Usually though, there's some, if you haven't seen these yet, they'll probably be online. Usually though, there's questions, answers, and follow-up question. Number 14 on this agenda takes away that opportunity for a continuous dialogue. So if somebody was to come up to the podium and talk to us, we're not allowed to talk to them until they're finished talking, and then we answer all their questions. Sometimes you want to have an open dialogue with the person sitting at the podium, and I think that person appreciates that opportunity also. Number 12 on here, it says, number 12, I believe, infringes on the people's First Amendment rights. It says that the public is no longer allowed to boo or clap. None of us like to get booed up here, I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? But I don't think we can regulate when you boo and when you clap. So, that's one of the things I'd like to see change on here. If there is a violation in some of these rules, is the agenda item going to be removed from the agenda, or is the resident gonna be asked to be removed? Number 5, I believe a ruling like this should allow the public to voice their opinion in a public hearing. So if we're gonna create a rules of decorum, I think we should do it in a public hearing setting. Let the residents let us hear what they want in these sets of rules. I'm gonna ask that we table this tonight to give our attorney time to review this and for the public to comment on whether they like these sets of rules or not.
I mean, that's fine. I note that the majority of these rules are based on the model rules of order from the Association of Towns of New York, but I have no issue with tabling.
I fully agree with you with the set of rules should be established.
On the question, real quick, I just want to concur with Councilman Hanley, number 12, I think it violates the First Amendment. So I'd like to see that stricken from it, but I will be okay with tabling it tonight for further review.
So you're seconding basically the motion to table?
Correct.
All in favor of tabling the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. So that is it for all the resolutions. I think we had 60 resolutions. We have now, unlike usually in other organization meetings, we're going to open the floor to any comments from the public on really any issue. After that, we are going to go into executive session for an interview of a candidate for the Zoning Board of Appeals, but we'll make that motion once any issues of the public are taken care of. So if anyone likes to make any comment, the podium's up there. Okay, seeing none, am I right, nobody?
Oh.
Mr. Harmon's in the audience there. There was an issue that I believe we're gonna discuss at the town board meeting on Monday with the previous town board and the agreement with the townhouses, that their status were changed. If you wanna step up and kinda express your concerns, we'll talk about it also in the executive session and bring it up Monday. But we are working to fix that problem and you know, give you service for those.
I'm Mike Harmon. I'm the property manager for patio home and townhome communities in the town. Did Mr. Adams, did you bring him up to speed on this?
Briefly before the meeting, I did talk to some of the council members about the situation, yes.
Okay.
Michael, can I bring everybody up to speed as
Sure.
far as there were some properties in West Seneca that enjoyed the benefit of having a homeowner association. Whether or not that paperwork was ever filed with the state, it put us in a little bit of a dilemma here. Those properties no longer enjoyed that benefit of being a HOA or a POA establishment. When that changed, that means the town is gonna have to pick up their sanitation, their trash and their recycles. I believe they're not asking for snow plowing or anything like that. To do that though, we had to have our attorney work up some language to allow us access on that property, because we didn't have access before. These were private roads, never deeded over to the town, so these are private roads. We had to make an agreement with the HOA that would allow our trucks on their property to pick up the sanitation and the recycles. That was being worked on. I don't know where we ended up with that in the status, and I know we were supposed to start picking up sanitation early January, and I believe that has not happened.
Well, here's the issue. The previous town board was working with myself and the communities to have the garbage picked up. Hopefully, it was supposed to be picked up before the end of the year. Because of the transition, it didn't happen. And I spoke with Mr. Adams probably a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and evidently there isn't enough totes in the town for them to give out, so you're waiting for totes to be delivered to the town, and then they would be delivered to the community members, along with the town attorney drawing up any legal documents that needed to be signed by the town, by the homeowners associations that are in question. So now what's happened is we've had the third day of January, and my phone has been ringing off the hook for the last hour, 2 hours, because I've got 180 or so community members with their garbage out in front of their house and nobody picking it up. I talked to Modern Disposal. I got a hold of them prior to close the day, and they told me that they were notified that the town was picking up as of January 1st. And I said, well, nobody notified the community associations, nobody notified me, the people in the community have not been notified. So now I've got garbage sitting out at all these communities and nobody picking it up. So what do I do now?
First, I'll address the garbage pickup for the remainder of 2019. The properties over there did not pay taxes to allow us to pick up that trash. If we had picked up the sanitation over there, we're penalizing all the taxpayers that have paid that freight. Going forward, the tax bills aren't due until February, but that doesn't matter. You pay your taxes in February. That backs you up. You're entitled to trash pickup in January. So we should be picking up your trash. I agree with you.
Right, okay, but I'll back up and say, I think you're a little wrong on the town, that the community's not paying the taxes. Everybody knows that the town made a mistake 20 years ago and classified all those communities as condominiums, which means that in the condominium, each unit owner has an undivided interest in the common area, which means that each unit owner owns a percentage of that common area, and their taxes are based on them owning the common area percentage. So there should not be any tax to the community for the last 20 years. So the last 20 years, you have been taxing the common area in those communities and you shouldn't have been. So each one of those communities has paid thousands of dollars in common area taxes that shouldn't have been paid. In other words, you're saying that they were getting a tax break and they were classified as condominiums, but you charge them taxes on the common area, and there are no taxes on common area in a condominium. And I don't think anybody understands that on this board. Even the assessor, I've had to school on these different things.
Except they enjoyed a great reduction on their assessments.
Well,
We know what that dollar amount is. It was a
okay.
huge reduction.
Those are individual homeowners. The homeowners association is a different situation. The homeowners association is a corporation, separate from the homeowners. So,
And they never deeded the streets over to the town of West Seneca, which doesn't
I
allow us
understand
on
that.
that street. So.
Oh, I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning tonight is, what are we gonna do with the garbage that's sitting out in front of everybody's house right now?
Go ahead.
That's the bottom line.
You're right.
That's all I'm concerned about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just want to note that as we spoke about 3 weeks ago or so, we were kind of in an agreement that during the transition period, we don't know what happened, what was filed, what wasn't filed. I don't know of any paperwork that said as of January 1st, we 100% had to take it over. Per our discussions, we were in an agreement that you would continue month-to-month service with Modern, and that when we had our totes lined up, we would deliver them, and we had a tentative date of, end of February, beginning of March, starting service.
Right.
Whatever happened in the past is the past, so here we are now, and we're gonna work with you, and I'm gonna have the trucks over there tomorrow, we're gonna pick up the
Okay,
garbage.
that's all I wanna know. That's
Okay?
great.
And we're gonna figure everything
Yeah,
out.
just so I can let
all the
them know,
paperwork.
and then I can work with the town attorney and get this paperwork taken care of. Go ahead, Tina.
Do I have permission to speak?
We have to, are we talking between each other, or is that not
No, you're
allowed?
good. You're good.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did you say
Go
yes?
ahead. No, go ahead.
So I have it drafted. I was waiting for the effective date. I don't know where the breakdown in communication was. I'm happy to talk to you after the meeting to
Okay.
talk about that a little. But it's just a one-page release, and
Good.
I can get them over to you for review, and then we can fill in the dates
Yeah.
later once we know the effective, the date that the totes are in and the trucks are gonna start.
Good.
But
Okay.
it sounds like maybe now if they're coming onto the property tomorrow, we'll just get them done right away.
Yeah, even if the totes aren't in and we have to pick up the bags, until those totes are in, that's fine. I just want to be able to send a phone message out when I get out of here, telling people to leave their cans out and they'll be picked up tomorrow, is that what you're saying? Okay.
Brian, will they be picked up next week as well? Did you say at the trash, maybe not the recyclables, but will the trash be picked up weekly going forward?
Yeah, we'll schedule in that they'll be weekly, and I'll sit and talk to you as far as where
Okay.
the complexes are and, what days their trash pickup will be. And then moving forward with recycling, once everything happens, they're gonna be bi-weekly. I know we spoke
Yeah,
about
right.
the communities and what recycling's offered
Yeah.
now, so
Okay.
We'll work out all those little details,
Beautiful.
but we're gonna take care of that for you, and,
Thanks, Brian.
fresh start, move
Thanks,
forward,
everybody.
we're gonna.
Yeah, all I want to just be able to tell them, leave your garbage out, it'll be picked up in the morning sometime. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll look forward to talking to everybody in the future. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to come up? So right now, we're gonna, I make a motion to go into executive session to interview a candidate for the zoning board of appeals. Second. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carried. So this, when we're done, we're gonna adjourn the meeting, so you can stay if you like. The meeting is technically open, but we will be adjourning from the executive session. Thank you.